intensity of the experience, whether it's physiological or psychological, they all go through this process. There is a starting point, and there is an existence, and there is an end, and the cycle begins again. Our natural tendency is either to attach, cling to pleasant experiences, and to push away unpleasant experiences. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to accept, acknowledge, and we use our awareness to approach to each experience with a mindful, gentle, non-judgmental approach. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Make a strong determination to keep your practice every day. Take a few minutes a day to be kind to yourself, be compassionate, and share it with the world. Be kind to others. Practice mindfulness. Learn to apply it to day-to-day life. Be aware of your thoughts, your actions, your reactions. Pick a small task each day and try to do that mindfully. Whether it's eating your breakfast or your lunch or your dinner, or maybe it's the time for yourself that you are taking while you're driving behind the wheel, or when you sit somewhere still, or as you fall asleep, learning to train your mind to fall asleep mindfully. Allow your mindfulness awareness to guide you. Allow it to improve the quality of relationship that you have with yourself and with the world. As you keep your eyes closed, please bring your palms together closer to your heart. And then listen to this brief chanting through the power of these vibrations of these sounds. Create a healing environment in your heart and allow these vibrations to heal you physically and mentally. Through the power of these powerful words, may no harm come to you, may no difficulties come to you. May you always find joy and peace. Abhivadana Sirissa Niccang Vada Vajayino Chattaro Dhamma Vajjanti Ayuvanno Sukham Balam Ayurarogya Sampatti Sangha Sampatti Mevacha Ato Nibbana Sampatti Iminate Samicchatu. peace be with you. May you be healthy. May you be content. And may you be peaceful. Thank you very much. You may open eyes. Good morning. Okay, how was your practice today? I'm glad to hear that. So, when Jean Marie came and she wanted to record this, I asked her, "Are you only going to chat the meditation part?" And she said, "Well, I'm good. It would be great if he could the monk chat too." So I like that phrase. I just found that. I kind of like funny phrases like that. The purpose of our practice is I always bring up this point because it seems like the most important aspect and thing that sometimes I tend to forget, and it seems like it's kind of like human nature that all of us to forget that the most important aspect in the teachings is to accept the fact that everything around us and the things that we face every day change. And sometimes things become very evident and overwhelming because sometimes I think when certain things become comfortable and we become very, very comfortable with those things. And we never think when that happens in a million years that, well, that would not be a problem, at least in my lifetime. And one of the interesting thing about in Buddhist teachings, this piece that impermanence, that anicca, the word, Pali word, anicca, right? And things can change in any given moment, whether you think about it or not. And when that happens, that's very difficult for people to wrap their mind around. And yesterday, I got a text from a friend all of a sudden, said that one of the friends that we knew tried to commit suicide. And as I was getting this message, I was working in a geriatric unit where that I deal with that every day, right? And in a population, very older population, in their, in 80s, 90s, who come to us with suicidal tendencies or they try to harm themselves. There are so many reasons. However, what interested me was not the fact that she whether tried or she claimed that she did. It's not what surprised me that how her family reacted to that. Because think about this for a moment. And if this has happened to you as you're sitting here as a daughter or a family member of your family and somebody's tried that, what comes to your mind all of a sudden? And now they're very upset that this person tried that because it's a change. It's something that those individuals who think that you would never try or think about something like that. But it could happen any given moment to anybody. And so it's really important as we practice mindfulness that we keep that in mind that anything that we face in life can change. And what brings peace to us is when that happens, how am I going to approach to that change? Am I going to tackle it with a lot of anxiety, anger, stress, and putting a lot of pressure that I become very numb to the fact that I don't want to accept, or am I going to go with a very open heart and open mind, and I'm going to do what I can do to make it better for whoever the person that affected by this situation, or it could be you that affected by that situation, or a change that happens. Because as I said at the beginning, that we become very stagnant. We become very comfortable with situations that happens in life as this cycle happens, and there are certain things that as we are in that comfortable cyclical things that continue to happen, we are okay with it. And all of a sudden, when that cycle off track, that creates a little bit discomfort, and that creates a problem, that creates anxiety, that creates, which is we call suffering. And so the something that we need to watch every day is that so-called anicca, the impermanence, that can happen in any given moment. And so was it yesterday or the day before yesterday, when you heard the news, whether you are against or you for the idea of changing the law of the Roe v. Wade. And so what came to your mind? What went through your mind? And what were your struggles? And what's next? Am I going to sit there? And this is a conversation that we had Monday with the gentleman too, that said Wednesday with the gentleman that came to the meditation. It's really difficult for us to see that things change that we really invested on, that we think it's the right thing. And so these things can change. And when we talk about change, anicca, impermanence, it means everything. And whether you like it or not, and things change. And when that happens, what matters to you? And how am I going to react? And so, Jayam Berang Pasavati, Dukkang Seti Parajita. And Upasanto Sukhang Seti Hitva Jaya Parajan. So this winning and losing and these ups and downs in life is not the way to approach things, because that's always going to bring us to these ups and downs in life. We have to find how are we going to approach these positive or negative changes in life with a mindset of equanimity, where that you can see, understand, this is a change, and what's my next approach, and how my role in it, and how I'm going to be affected. And just as I think that something right is right for the world, and the opposite also think what they think, how they think also the positive thing and the right. And so the right or wrong is not the best approach probably to look at the world. But I think with our practice, what we need to notice, what we need to recognize and to understand is that each day when these changes occur, happens, and how that's going to affect me, and how I'm creating suffering for myself. And as you are creating suffering for yourself, if you are a person that suffers physically and mentally, what are there to share with the world and to you, the person next to you? And so your approach is matters, and how I'm going to react to things, it matters. And so this practice, mindfulness, loving kindness, it's become a key thing in your life when you approach to your happiness, your contentment in life. Because what we're trying to accomplish is that very thing in life that it doesn't matter how that had happened in the constitution or in the law in the country last 50 years or 60 years, but we are people that who are trying to understand this fundamental thing in life is that anything in any given moment can change. And when that happens, and how am I going to acknowledge it, accept it, work with it? Because you can fight it, and as we are fighting it, we are creating a lot of suffering. And so you can fight it back, but with a very kind and loving. And after 2,500 years after, Jesus or the Buddha or any other religious people, these iconic figures taught this love, kindness, compassion in the world. And here we are today sitting around and discussing the importance of that, because we know that it is the most effective thing. And in order to approach to things in life that happens when changes happens, to attend to those things with a gentle, kind, mindful heart, and that becomes actually a lot more powerful than that negative approach to things. And so, what I want you to remember as we are walking through these doors today, because this is a conversation going to come again and again, and you will have this conversation for probably months, weeks, years to come. And as we do that, any changes, any conversation that lead to this, uncomfortable situation, and how am I going to practice what you practice today? And how am I going to be non-judgmental? And how am I going to take a kind approach to that? And how am I going to listen to it? And so you are your own savior, you are the navigator, and you determine the peace and the joy, the happiness piece at the part of your life. And allow this practice to, guide you. And when these things comes up again and again, and I saw all of a sudden, and yesterday, the atmosphere changed where I worked as the news broke. And I saw that a lot of people approached that with fear, uncertainties, anger. And so I was sitting there and thinking that it is a change, right? And just as I felt, we felt, they felt, and imagine the people of the opposite aisle and 50 years ago, they might have felt the same way. Because we are living in this dualistic world. This duality is not the approach to our peace. And it's always going to be these ups and downs, these changes. And, if you're going to look at life, the world, in a perspective of good and bad. And one thing that we need to recognize is that these ups and downs is how the life works, how the nature works, how the world works. And so when these ups and downs happen, and what's my role, and how am I approached to it, and how can I make a difference? And when I do that, how am I going to approach with that mindfulness practice that we practice, and with kindness? And how am I going to face that? And how am I going to acknowledge that change? I understand it's very difficult. So, I'm not trying to be political, but I'm just letting you know there is this quality in the teaching. It's called akalika. Akalika means that there is this very quality in this teachings, piece of teachings. It's called impermanence, anicca, that it doesn't have a time frame, and it can happen with anything, any given moment. And so it's so important. It's very vital to understand. It could be one of the strongest beliefs that you can have that can change. And that's what it means to understand and to practice mindfulness. So I just wanted to share it with you today because I saw things that took place, and regardless of your beliefs, and if you are someone who applaud the idea that with that change, and keep that in mind, and that might also change. And so it's a hard thing to wrap your mind around, but it's not unfortunate, but that's the reality. And that's what we are trying to understand. I think the more we understand it, I think it's become easier for us to approach to any kind of situations in life, not just what happened yesterday, but everything else. And then you can pick your role and be more effective towards what you believe in. And one of the conversations when we had that Wednesday with that gentleman, and continue to become, I see that the rage comes and anger becomes an issue. It makes him very depressed, anxious. And he expressed himself that it's happening to him. But the problem is he goes home and just think about it and does not become proactive. And that puts you in a very depressive mode, in a situation that where he's not happy. And so, as I always remind you, as a monk, my role, I understand when I came from Illinois, when I decided to leave, I remember a friend of mine came to me, oh my gosh, you are going to the Bible Belt. And that never been my experience. And my experience has been, yeah, here and there, I heard things, I got the looks, I experienced those things, but I can give a positive spin to that. And that's within my control. It wasn't the perfect situation where I had in Chicago, where, when you walk around on the square, everybody knows you, they bow to you, they know you, they say hello. It wasn't the case. But I just had to, notice that, okay, so this is different. This is not the same. And so that understanding allows me to, do what I like to do, and I do what I can do the best. Being a monk, going around, teaching meditation, talking about these things, and self-love, teaching about how to love themselves. It's a very difficult thing for people to do. And in fact, when we had the whole day meditation, one of the participants came and said, self-love was one of the most difficult things for her. So, doing your part is what I think what we can do to, if you want to see that change in the world. So as Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. So with that, I'm going to stop talking. So if you have any questions, anything to share.